every now and then I kind of get feedback from some people, usually in real life, friends of mine or coworkers who see my stuff and then they go, "Wait a minute, how come you never saw this?" Or "Did you see this and what did you think about it?" And usually I just sum up in a quick sentence, "No, I didn't see it either because there was something else playing or it really just wasn't my thing." And a lot of times I hear, "Really? Why?" And if why not make a few videos to sum up why you don't go see a movie? Why either you're too busy or most of the time the best reason to make a video is because it's just not something you're into. And this weekend, a lot of new releases are things I'm not really looking forward to, like The Darkest Mind, or, I'm not even kidding, Death of a Nation, which is a pro Trump documentary from the idiot who made Hillary 2016 or something like that, which. But the one that I'm specifically not really looking forward to all that much is the new Disney film, Christopher Robin. Yeah, already half of you hate me at this point, but hear me out on this. When I first heard about it, I thought it was completely dead on arrival. I heard the premise of it and I just thought, oh great, another live action movie based on some popular kid stuff that's set in the modern world where it's a complete fish out of water story that's completely cliched, overdone, and completely hammered in regards to the message. Then I saw the very first trailer, which was just the teaser of Ewan McGregor, where you kind of just see his everyday life, and then Pooh is randomly shoved in right at the end to make you wonder, gee, what's going to happen next? That trailer I actually kind of liked. It was a little awkward seeing Winnie the Pooh in live action, but it wasn't the first time I'd seen a live action version of the character. A lot of people haven't, but I've seen quite a few, mostly in the 60s and 80s, and they look like shit. They really do. I mean, I feel bad saying that, but like those Shirley Temple puppets or that very 60s era TV show where Eeyore had like blue hair or whatever, it looked terrible. And the 80s show I honestly thought was made in the 60s because it just looked so bad. The people in the suits and the voices, they did not sound like they were into it. The costumes were really creepy. Rue had these really possessed eyes. I'm like, what are these, Teddy Ruxpin costumes? And no joke, they actually were Teddy Ruxpin costumes, which is even worse. Much to my amazement, that show actually lasted longer than a year. I'm really confused as to how that's even possible. But yeah, so that wasn't a complete surprise seeing Pooh live action for the first time. The CG felt weird at first, but you'd be surprised how easily you get used to it. And, Jim Cummings is the voice actor. You can't go wrong with that. So for a while, I was kind of skeptical, but still interested because, it takes place in the 50s, so there's no modern era shit that most movies like this follow. And, Ewan McGregor as an adult Christopher Robin is the only casting choice I could really go with. I can't think of anyone else playing an older Christopher Robin. A lot of people might say Domhnall Gleeson because last year, and he would have been good at that too, but now we'll never know. Then the second trailer came out that was more in depth into what the movie was going to be. And that's when I realized the movie that I was afraid it was going to be from the very start, it looks like that's exactly what it's going to be, just taking place in the 50s. So I guess it's slightly less lame, but the second Pooh and all those characters leave the 100-Acre Wood and come into the real world and start interacting with other people, that's when I realized it was just going to be another dumb fish out of water story with a really hammered-in message. And that's when it hit me. If there's ever a bad Winnie the Pooh movie, it's usually because it takes the story way too seriously. And the last time I saw something like that in a Winnie the Pooh movie was probably Pooh's Heffalump movie. That was the last one I can remember where it felt really forced and really heavy-handed, especially during the third act, where I swear all the characters just become assholes for no real reason. And in case it wasn't obvious, if you haven't seen the movie, Heffalumps are apparently real in this world, and the whole message is about, like, not judging others based by their appearance or what other people say. It's very obviously a commentary on like racism and stuff like that, and I got nothing wrong with that in a kids movie or even in a Winnie the Pooh movie, but it still has to be the same way the characters would react to something like this. And would Winnie the Pooh and his friends turn into the villagers from Frankenstein if they saw something scary? No. They would just run away and hide. They wouldn't set up traps. They wouldn't try to force people out of their home or even straight up capture them. That part was weird and creepy, and I don't know, it just wasn't very pleasant. And it gets a lot worse the more that I think about it. And I can't think of any other moments in the other few Winnie the Pooh movies that I've seen, but the ones that I remember and like so much, the reason I think that I love them so much is because they kind of take place in their own world. It's completely free of anything else interfering. It's just those characters, one situation that they all have to deal with. At least from like Tigger movie, Piglet, and then Heffalump, those three movies in particular, it's just like one scenario and all these characters react in the way that they would. And that's what made it good. And Christopher Robin wasn't really a big part in those movies, but when he was, it worked. And yeah, that's the other thing. Like, a movie about Christopher Robin, I think, would be a really good idea. Because a lot of people talk about the one final book that A.A. Milne wrote, where it ended with Christopher basically saying goodbye to his friends and accepting the fact that he has to grow up. That alone would be a really good movie. And you kind of saw that in Goodbye, Christopher Robin, where it was A.A. Milne and his own son, and that's what made it even more interesting because it was the real life relationship. But, you know, imagine just seeing the perspective, that exact same perspective, just from the fictional Christopher Robin and his friends. That alone would be a really good movie. And from what I've heard, this one kind of starts off that way and then just goes into the generic stuff about growing up and losing your sense of imagination. The more I think about it, this movie just sounds like Hook with Winnie the Pooh characters, and that's literally it, nothing else. And I don't get that. And you got all these weird cliches like the stuck-up boss. Why do you need that in a Winnie the Pooh movie? You don't. You just need those characters bouncing off each other. That's literally all you need. I mean, the original Mini Adventures movie is like 3 separate shorts that are like 20 minutes each, and they all have a beginning, middle, and end, and then move on to the next one. Is there a reason we can't have a movie like that anymore? Because if we're still watching it decades after it was released, clearly we can accept a movie like that in theaters today. We're not that lazy. And I really wish studios understood that sometimes. I understand there is a need for a profit, but when you're making the exact same thing over and over again, chances are that profit is going to go down. And you're going to have to go back to coming up with more new things. And I really hope people realize this sooner rather than later, but eventually they're going to have to. I just wish that there were more kids' movies like the original Winnie the Pooh, where there wasn't a big plot or climax or villain. It was just characters learning about life just by interacting with each other. That's really all you need for a story like this. You don't need a big climax. You don't need a big face-off or a race against time. I'm really sick of the race against time. We know what's going to happen. We know we're going to win in the end. As kids, we know they're going to win in the end. What's the point of teasing us? I'm getting really intense about a Winnie the Pooh movie. There's nothing better than that. Well, guys, thank you for watching all the way through. If you've liked this video and you want to see more in this kind of format, just let me know in the comments below. Be sure to like, subscribe, check out my other reviews at noperfectmovie.com. And once again, thank you all very much for watching. Take care.